The first time, no one called it a premonition. They called it coincidence, collective stress, some invisible side effect of modern life. The same image appearing in the minds of thousands of people across different continents, languages, beliefs, and routines that would never intersect. A place that did not exist on any map, yet felt familiar, like the vague memory of something long lost. A nameless city, built in impossible lines, with towers too thin to remain standing, streets designed by a logic that ignored human angles, and a heavy sky, dark red, as if it were eternally burning behind the clouds. Helena would later organize it all as one might try to give order to an earthquake. First, the barely perceptible tremor, then objects shifting on their own, until the ground finally gave way. In the early days, the city appeared only in fragments: a colossal arch, a square too empty to be natural, a black river reflecting stars that belonged to no known constellation. People awoke with the physical sensation of return, as if they had traveled very far and come back without understanding the path. Many reported the same strange detail. The air felt dense, as though breathing meant moving through an invisible liquid. And at the end of each dream, always just before waking, came the same crushing feeling. Difficult to explain, yet impossible to mistake. The feeling of farewell. Helena followed the growth of the phenomenon from the beginning, when it was still treated as a digital curiosity, a fleeting topic destined to vanish within days. But it did not vanish. It spread. Clinics began registering patients with identical descriptions. Universities gathered reports that matched in far too many details to be ignored. Commercial pilots spoke of brief naps interrupted by the same square beneath the red sky. A fisherman from a remote island described towers he could never have seen. A child drew streets with a geometric precision no adult had taught. As the nights passed, fear changed texture. At first, there was room for irony, for comforting explanations, for elegant denial. Then the fear hardened. Repetition erased coincidence. What repeats itself in that way ceases to be chance and becomes pattern. And patterns, Helena knew, are almost always language. The first deaths came quietly. They were not announced. People who simply did not wake up, with no signs of violence, no visible trauma, only absolute exhaustion, as if they had spent their entire existence somewhere impossibly distant. Medical records revealed no common cause. Dream histories did. All of them had been to the city. Helena realized the world was beginning to fear sleep more than wakefulness. In the following nights, the city gained clarity. The towers ceased to be shadows and became cold surfaces. Some dreamers reported pain when touching the walls, as though the dream had acquired physical density. Others awoke with marks on their skin, thinned lines on their palms, symbols resembling transit maps, though they matched nothing known. As Helena compiled the accounts, she identified another constant detail: the sensation of being observed. Not by eyes, not by a face, but by something attentive, impersonal, precise. A presence that measured, calculated, evaluated. By the third week, satellites began to fail. There were no explosions, no cinematic catastrophes, just blind spots appearing in orbital images, as though parts of the planet had been erased. These failures were not random. When Helena overlaid the data, unease crept in slowly. The blind zones followed the exact geometry of the dream city. Where dreams were most frequent, the planet became opaque to the sky. Then the first structure appeared. The moment was etched into memory because the entire world saw it at once, each person through a different screen, and still no one could accept what was happening. In the desert, beneath a sky too clear, a form appeared too vast for the human mind to contain. It was not a ship. It was an absence sculpted into volume, a massive darkness bending the light around it. The air trembled, the stars seemed to warp, and the thing descended slowly, as if merely returning to a place it had always belonged. Official explanations came quickly, fragile and hurried. Atmospheric phenomena, secret tests, optical illusions. Helena watched these attempts as one might watch someone try to hold back the ocean with bare hands. At dawn, the structure touched the ground. Nearby cameras went silent. Those farther away captured the detail that changed everything. On the ground around the structure, the perfect outline of a city was forming. The city of dreams had found an anchor. In the hours that followed, other structures appeared around the globe, not in strategic locations, but precisely where human minds had already gone. The dreams changed in nature. They were no longer scattered images. They became paths, instructions. In that night, something different waited at the center of the main square, beneath the red sky. Something no human mind should have been able to imagine. After that night, sleep stopped being an automatic act. It became a heavy choice, almost a calculated risk. Helena noticed this in the numbers before she noticed it in the testimonies. The consumption of stimulants increased, night shifts became common even where they made no sense, and the word insomnia lost its clinical tone and took on the shape of self-preservation. People were trying to stay awake not to produce more, but to remain in the same place. The dreams, however, did not respect wakefulness. A few seconds of distraction, an involuntary nap, a brief faint, and the city returned. Now with more detail, with continuity. It was no longer possible to enter it by accident. Those who arrived felt they had arrived exactly where they were meant to be. The streets no longer rearranged themselves. They remained in the same places night after night, as if they were being fixed into the planet's collective memory. Helena noticed that dreamers began to report identical movements. They started from the same points, crossed the same routes, reached the same structures. There was no conversation between them, no conscious exchange of information, and yet the path subsided. The city was teaching the way, and the more people learned it, the easier it became to enter. As if each human mind were a thread, and together they were weaving something that had not existed before. The physical structures on Earth changed as well. They did not grow in size, but in definition. The urban outline around them became sharper, deeper, like a scar being redrawn every day. Measuring instruments registered alterations in the magnetic field too small to justify immediate panic, too large to be ignored. The ground around the structure seemed older, as if it had been forcibly aged, compressed by a time that did not belong to Earth. It was during this period that incomplete returns began. People woke up different, not in obvious ways, not with grotesque changes, but with small absences, a reflection that took too long to respond, a memory that no longer fit, a new silence behind the eyes. Helena read reports describing individuals who remained seated for hours, motionless, not due to catatonia, but to extreme attention, as if they were listening to something distant. Neurological tests revealed unprecedented patterns of activity, areas of the brain activating together in ways never before recorded. Some did not truly return. Their bodies woke up, but their presence seemed to have remained elsewhere. These cases were the first to be isolated, classified, hidden. Helena quickly understood why. There was no aggression in them, no chaos. There was obedience, a strange, almost serene alignment, as if those people had found a purpose too simple to question. Meanwhile, in the city of dreams, new areas opened. Doors that had once been smooth began to divide. Corridors appeared where walls had been, and at the center, in the great square beneath the red sky, the observing form became more perceptible. It had no defined contours, but its influence was undeniable. The closer one came, the harder it became to keep human thoughts organized. Ideas unraveled before completing their meaning. Emotions lost their names, but not their intensity. By crossing hundreds of accounts, Helena realized the city was not merely a space, it was a filter. Each human mind reacted slightly differently to approach of the center. Some felt ecstasy, others absolute terror. Most felt something worse, partial understanding, an incomplete awareness of something far too vast, like trying to observe an entire structure through a narrow crack. The deaths increased, not explosively, but steadily, mathematically. People who went too far into the city rarely woke up. Autopsies remained inconclusive, but Helena identified a cruel pattern. The more detailed the account of the dream before death, the lower the chance of return. Knowing the city was in some way spending life itself. Government shifted from denial to control. Zones around the structures were isolated. Information began to be filtered, softened, fragmented. Helena watched reports disappear, research interrupted, data classified with an urgency that betrayed panic. But control failed for one simple reason. The access point was not physical, it was inside people. In the fourth week, something changed irreversibly. For the first time, someone described the sensation of being observed not only in the city, but after waking, not as paranoia, not as diffuse fear, but as direct continuity, as if the attention that existed beneath the red sky had crossed the boundary of the dream. Other reports followed, all too similar to be dismissed.
The structures, motionless on the surface of the Earth, began emitting low-frequency signals, almost imperceptible, yet perfectly synchronized with human sleep cycles. Helena understood, with uncomfortable clarity, that the invasion was not unfolding in the way humanity expected. There were no armies descending from the sky, no direct confrontation. There was adaptation, fine adjustment, a patient effort to align two realities. The city was not the site of the invasion. It was the interface. And while millions continued to dream, something on the other side was beginning to learn how to stay awake. From that point on, the world entered a state of permanent waiting. It was not open panic, nor full normality. It was suspension. Cities kept functioning, markets opened, people went to work, but everything happened with an invisible layer of tension, as if reality itself were slightly out of alignment. Helena realized that humanity had learned to coexist with the idea of invasion without ever fully naming it. The dreams began to select. Not everyone entered the city anymore. Some were stopped at the very edges, waking with the abrupt sensation of expulsion. Others advanced with increasing ease, crossing areas that had once seemed impossible. This difference followed no clear criteria. It did not depend on age, health, intelligence, or belief. Helena suspected the city was not seeking the strongest or the weakest, but the most adaptable. Over time, people emerged who could remain conscious within the dream, not awake in the human sense, but stable. They described the city as more real than the waking world itself. Gravity felt consistent, distances did not shift. The red sky ceased to be threatening and became simply functional. Helena noticed that these accounts always carried an unsettling detail. Those who reached this level of permanence began to lose interest in waking life. The body became an interval. Eating, speaking, moving, all felt too mechanical, too noisy. These people slept whenever they could. They sought the dream the way one seeks air. Helena read cases of individuals who stayed awake for days, not truly sleeping, merely waiting for the precise moment when the city would accept them again. Some died that way, exhausted, yet with expressions of peace no anesthetic could replicate. The structures on Earth responded to this shift. For the first time, slight visual variations were recorded around them, ripples in the air, like heat distorting the horizon, low-frequency sounds that were not heard but felt in the bones. Instruments detected rhythmic emissions, pulses that mimicked human neural patterns during deep sleep. Helena understood it was no longer observation, it was synchronization. Then the physical displacements began. Not mass transports, not collective disappearances, but localized failures. People who entered areas near the structures simply were no longer found. No traces, no evidence of violence. In some cases, cameras recorded only a brief distortion, as if space itself had blinked. Helena compared these events to dream accounts and found exact correspondences. The points of disappearance matched specific entrances of the city. The boundary between dream and matter was thinning. In the city, new elements appeared, structures that were neither streets nor buildings, but something in between, like organs within a colossal body. Surfaces pulsed slowly. The architecture itself seemed to respond to human presence, adjusting passages, opening or closing spaces as an observer approached. Helena described the stage as the moment when the city stopped being built and began to be alive. At the center, the presence became impossible to ignore. It did not reveal itself, but it organized everything around it. Space obeyed it. Time seemed to bend in its proximity. Those who came too close reported the same devastating sensation. They were not being threatened nor invited. They were being fully understood. Every memory, every fear, every desire absorbed with indifferent precision. Helena recognized humanity's fundamental mistake, believing it was being studied as an enemy. What was happening was far more intimate. The city did not simulate human environments to deceive. It translated the human mind into a format compatible with something greater. The red sky was not a symbol of war. It was a processing field. Deaths now became rare, not because the danger had passed, but because the system had learned to reduce waste. Those who could not adapt were kept at a distance. Those who adapted too well ceased to be recorded as losses. They simply changed state. Governments no longer pretended control. Global communications grew erratic. Contradictory orders were issued and forgotten. Helena observed that the concept of sovereignty had lost meaning. No physical border mattered when the point of contact ran through the interior of human minds. It was in this context that the first impossible reports emerged.
Individuals who claimed to have awakened in places that did not exist on Earth. Not the city beneath the red sky, but intermediate environments, transitional spaces. They described a constant sensation of displacement,
as if always standing half a step from somewhere else. Physical examinations revealed subtle alterations, heart rhythms adjusted to non-human patterns, brain activity in frequencies previously associated only with deep sleep. Helena understood that the invasion had moved beyond its initial stage. The city had fulfilled its role as a cognitive portal. Now something was beginning to cross back, not in the form of armies, but as distributed presence. Humanity was not being conquered, it was being integrated. And somewhere beyond human comprehension, the city was slowly beginning to shut down, like a bridge that had served its purpose and no longer needed to remain visible. When the city began to disappear from dreams, no one celebrated. There was no collective relief, no sense of victory. What emerged instead was a void difficult to name, like waking up in a house where something essential had been removed during the night. People still slept, still dreamed, but dreams returned to being fragmented, incoherent, human. For many, this was more disturbing than the red sky had ever been. Helena realized that the silence that followed was deceptive. The physical structures on Uruk remained motionless, but now they seemed unnecessary. Instruments indicated a gradual drop in activity. Emissions ceased, pulses became irregular, then vanished entirely. There was no explosion, no visible retreat, only shutdown, like a system that had completed its task and entered a final state of rest. It was then that the first signs of the true consequence appeared. Those who had spent the most time in the city did not return to their previous state. They were not ill, nor controlled, nor visibly transformed. They were adjusted. They made decisions with an unsettling precision, anticipated events without knowing how, related to the world with a disconcerting calm, as if they had already accepted something the rest of humanity was still struggling to deny. Helena observed that these people rarely spoke about the city, not out of fear or repression, but out of irrelevance. For them, the process was complete. The city had been only a stage of translation, a necessary learning to cross a threshold that was now part of them. The red sky was remembered not as a threat, but as a tool. Months later, the structures began to dissolve. They did not collapse, they simply lost definition. Edges became imprecise, surfaces less solid, until one day there was nothing left but ordinary ground. No unknown material, no physical evidence, only gaps in records and an uncomfortable number of contradictory testimonies. Governments attempted to rewrite history. They classified the event as global hysteria, a psychosocial phenomenon, a collective collapse amplified by technology. Helena read these reports with the clarity of someone who knows that truth does not need to be accepted in order to continue existing. The world moved on because it always does, but it moved on differently. What no one managed to measure was how much of humanity had crossed along with the city, and how much had been left behind. Children born after the disappearance of the dreams displayed unusual cognitive patterns. They learned too quickly, adapted with disturbing ease, demonstrated an intuitive perception of complex systems, as if certain mental structures came pre-adjusted. Helena understood that the city had not come only to take, it had come to prepare. The invasion was never about occupying territory. It was about ensuring compatibility. Somewhere beyond human comprehension, something assessed Earth, adjusted what was necessary, and moved on. Not because it failed, but because it was finished. Humanity was not defeated nor saved. It was integrated into a larger, invisible, continuous process. A process that does not require full awareness to function. And sometimes when Helena slept poorly, she had the impression that something was still observing. Not with urgency, not with immediate interest, but with the patience of something that knows time works in its favor. As if the true contact had not been the red sky or the impossible city, but the silent change no one managed to undo. Because some invasions do not need to remain present to succeed. They only need to happen once. The end. If you enjoyed this story and want to keep exploring science fiction narratives, alien invasions, and mind-bending mysteries, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for the next video. Here, new stories are published every day for those who love to imagine, question, and go beyond the obvious.